This is a world bordering on different. The borders all shifting. Western states always had gatekeepers, but now we citizens have been engaging in our own gatekeeping. What media we let in, what horrors we are screening. You can't swipe left on real-life events. We've been ignorers of evidence, unwilling witnesses. The dictionary says witness is an individual who, being present, personally sees or perceives a thing. A spectator. We cannot say we couldn't perceive it. Anyone thinking, I didn't personally see anything, all I got was clickbait images, I'm not to blame for what my Facebook feed is, I wasn't present for any of this. None of us were present. We were spectating. Do not say till Alan you didn't know there were children. This didn't start with Alan. Didn't start with one war. This isn't just about Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. This spring, more than a country's worth of people had taken to the seas. Countless people fleeing too many countries. Our governments call that displaced. We call it disgrace, but we remained spectators. Joked about smelling napalm in the morning. Napalm was the first time we really saw what was happening. Life magazine and AP tried to make us witnesses, but still it took 4 years for their editors to print a pic of a Vietnamese victim. You know, editor is a synonym for gatekeeper. And when the media finally decided to confront us with the evidence, they couldn't stop us turning the page when the pics got too harrowing. By the Bosnian War, so used to these images, we simply switched the telly off. Recycled traumatic images to paper stock. We've been through this cycle before. Before the war. World War II. The one the history books say was all honor and pulling through, pulling together, noble defenders. That was an honorable endeavor. After the Anschluss in 1938, the British government tightened immigration. We made it harder for Jews to get in. Throughout the 1930s, we'd enacted new visa controls, then restricted them, scared by the number of Jews trying to get in. Those that did were only because the Jewish community promised they would bear the full expense. Post-war, we specifically excluded European Jews and non-white immigrants on the grounds we couldn't assimilate them. We do not admit this in our modern press coverage. Call it the honourable war. Pretend Parliament saved as many as it could from the Holocaust. Louise London's definitive account of the Holocaust and British immigration shows the UK turned away almost 10 times more Jews than we've saved. We have been here before. We are retelling a story, pretending the current news is somehow new. We knew. If Alan's was the first child's face we saw washed up on a beach, it's only because we have deliberately ignored what's been happening. How is this happening? This just keeps happening. For most in my generation, Iraq was the first war we saw without a major news corp in the way, no gatekeepers. Even those of us who didn't go saw footage filmed by Western soldiers. My mate Jay came back from Basra with a video. Day 1, town. Day 2, rubble. Day 3, dismembered torsos scattered across road. Pulp of skin and shattered bone. By day 4, Basra was just funeral home. We could no longer stand the video, so someone switched the film off, but it was clear to all of us that Jay was still watching. Jay is still watching. He's a direct witness, but the existence of a screen between us and what it depicted didn't screen us off from the responsibilities inflicted. If we ignored the horror, we became participants. We all ignored the horror. 12 years later, 2 wars, what we've ignored is heading desperate for our shores. We created this. With everything we refused to witness, each image we didn't engage with, how we've acted throughout history, we have been gatekeeping. In both meanings. curating our news feeds, choosing to unfollow certain stories, purposely self-desensitizing, we'd need to lose all sense of things before we agree to shut gates on fellow human beings. The only refugees I've ever known weren't then. Were just citizens living in their homelands when we met during the Ugandan conflict. But things get worse after war's ending. There's less funding then, less aid. The West turns its back and walks away. That's one way refugees get created. My friend said there's real meaning to the phrase human being. Being viewed as human is fleeting, only exists for as long as your being. Dead is just a body. There were so many bodies. I met men hired to drive continuously round their city, shoveling up the dead. Days spent trucking away corpses. Breaking from their stories, one said souls are lost more quickly in the living than the dead. To inaction, there is consequence, a reason we bear witness. It speaks to the weight of it, the heft of responsibility for what we've seen. We don't need to see to know what's been happening. We've known. When the government refused entry to European Jews post-Anschluss, ordinary Brits took them in. Nicholas Winton's Kindertransport saved 669 children. Sometimes you can't wait for your government. We can't keep waiting for this government. There are bodies washing up on beaches. Not giggling children for happy mums to towel off, but body bags for border enforcement agents to zip shut. Our government hoped they wouldn't have to contend with the visual impact a beached body has, because you can't draw chalk outlines on sand. And when you're talking en masse, there isn't an identity tag on the body bag. Millions dead may be just a statistic, but to one boy, we became witness. Do not ignore this. Do not scroll past this distress. We are the editors of our own news service, curating our own content. Camera phones and the internet get us past media censorship. Dispense with stories speaking of us and them. There is no them. Ours is a world bordering on different. The borders all shifting. We've shifted into broader views of our responsibilities as witnesses. Now we see we must change the nature of this gatekeeping. No need to keep gates. There are people to let in. Thank you.